The observation deck hummed with the usual background chatter of the galactic station. But today, everyone had gone silent. I mean, properly silent. The kind of quiet that makes your gills itch. I'm Vorkath, by the way, senior xenobiologist. Been studying species across 47 systems for the better part of 2 decades. Thought I'd seen everything. Thought wrong. Are we seriously just standing here? My colleague Thressa clicked her mandibles nervously, her 4 eyes fixed on the viewing screen. Shouldn't we, I don't know, do something? Like what exactly? I shot back, tentacles twitching. File a complaint with the cosmos? The humans brought their spawn aboard 3 cycles ago, and now we have to deal with the consequences. The consequence in question was currently sitting cross-legged in Observation Bay 7, a human child, female, approximately 7 standard years old according to her species measurements, brown hair tied back in what humans call a ponytail, wearing some sort of bright yellow garment with pictures of Earth creatures on it, and she was smiling. Actually smiling. That should have been our first warning. The environmental controls are holding, Thressa reported, checking her datapad for the 15th time in as many minutes. Oxygen levels stable. Temperature maintained at human comfort range. But Vorkath, the proximity alerts. I can see them. Boy, could I see them. Every single red warning light on my console was screaming at me like an angry Voltarian merchant who'd just been shortchanged. 16 hostile life forms, closing in from all sides. Here's something most species in the galaxy understand. When you're setting up a research station in the outer fringe, you're going to encounter things. Dangerous things. Things with too many teeth, too many claws, and absolutely zero interest in your scientific credentials. We had protocols, barriers, defense systems that cost more than some planets' annual budgets. And, somehow, someway, 16 Kravith stalkers had breached every single one. How did they even get in? Thressa's voice climbed 3 octaves. Impressive. Considering her species only has 2, the security grid should have detected them at least 5 sectors away. I pulled up the logs, scrolling through data that made less and less sense the more I looked at it. According to this, they didn't breach anything. The system just didn't see them. Like they weren't there. That's impossible. Yeah. Well, add it to today's list of impossible things. I gestured at the screen where the human child, who her parents had introduced as Mira, was now humming some sort of melody, still smiling, still completely unaware that she was about to become lunch for some of the deadliest predators in known space. Kravith stalkers. Let me paint you a picture, because clearly the universe has a sick sense of humor. Imagine something that's part shadow, part nightmare, and part pure hatred. They stand, about 9 feet tall when they bother to stand, which isn't often because they prefer to move on all 6 legs, scales harder than military-grade hull plating, claws that can tear through reinforced steel like it's tissue paper. And teeth. Oh, the teeth. 3 rows of them, each one designed by evolution's most sadistic engineer. They hunt in packs. They never give up. And they can smell fear from 3 systems away, which made what happened next absolutely baffling. The first stalker emerged from the ventilation shaft with the grace of liquid death. Its scales rippled, reflecting the harsh station lighting in ways that hurt to look at. Those massive claws scored marks in the deck plating as it moved, each step perfectly silent despite its bulk. Mira looked up from the toy she'd been playing with. Some sort of stuffed earth animal. A bear, I think. Doesn't matter. Oh, she said, voice clear and bright, and completely devoid of any survival instinct whatsoever. Hello, big kitty. Kitty? Thressa's translator struggled with the Earth term. Did she just call a Kravith stalker a small domesticated feline? Humans have a weird relationship with proper threat assessment, I muttered, already reaching for the emergency contact to notify her parents, who were, naturally, in the deepest part of the station running some engineering diagnostics, because why would they be nearby when their offspring was about to be eaten? The stalker tilted its massive head, studying the small human with eyes that glowed like dying stars. Its mouth opened slightly, revealing those horrific teeth. The sound it made, this low rumbling that I felt in my bones, usually meant something was about to die very, very painfully. Mira giggled. She giggled. Pretty teeth, she said, pushing herself to her feet with that chaotic energy human children seem to possess in infinite supply. But you need a bath. You're all dusty. Thressa grabbed my arm, which was uncomfortable because she has barbs. Vorkath, we need to extract her. Now. Right now. Immediately. The emergency protocols require 17 minutes to safely depressurize the bay, create a barrier, and I stopped talking because words suddenly seemed pointless. 3 more stalkers had appeared. Then 5. Then 8. They poured into the observation bay like smoke, surrounding the child in a perfect circle of scales, claws, and impending doom. Their eyes all fixed on her, calculating, hungry. And the little human? She was busy trying to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Her small hand pointed at each massive predator in turn. Wow, that's a lot of big kitties. Do you all live together? That must be fun. This is it, Thressa whispered. We're about to witness the brutal death of a human child, and there's nothing we can. She stopped because one of the stalkers did something unprecedented. It sat down. Just sat. Haunches on the deck, tail curled around its body, staring at the child with an expression I'd never seen on one of their kind before. Confusion. Then another sat, and another. Within 30 seconds, all 16 Kravitz stalkers, apex predators that had terrorized this region of space for millennia, were sitting in a circle around a 7-year-old human girl like students at a lecture. Someone pinch me, I said. Your species doesn't have pain receptors in your epidermis, Thressa replied automatically, still staring at the screen. It was rhetorical. Mira walked up to the nearest stalker, the first one that had emerged. The massive creature could have swallowed her whole without even chewing. She reached out one small hand and, I swear to every deity in the cosmos, she patted it on the snout. Good kitty, she said, her voice carrying that tone human adults use when they're pleased with an animal's behavior. You're all being so quiet and good. Yes, you are. The stalker's eyes widened. If I didn't know better, I'd say it looked startled. Then something else entered the bay, and my internal organs tried to spontaneously relocate to a different dimension. A honey badger. Now, humans have this saying. Something about how it's always the small ones you need to watch out for. They weren't kidding. I'd read the reports, studied the data, watched the footage from Earth observation drones. Honey badgers were pound for pound, one of the most fearless, aggressive, and straight-up terrifying creatures on the human homeworld. This particular specimen was about 3 feet long, with gray and black fur, small round ears, and eyes that held absolutely no concept of surrender. It waddled into the bay through the same ventilation shaft the stalkers had used, moving with the confidence of something that had never lost a fight and had no intention of starting now. Oh no, Thressa breathed. Oh no, no, that's a Category 7 aggressive fauna. Why do the humans have a Category 7 aggressive fauna on the station? Her father's a wildlife behavioral specialist, I said faintly. He brought it for a research presentation next cycle. It was supposed to stay in the containment pod. Well, it's not in the containment pod anymore. The honey badger stopped about 10 feet from the circle of stalkers. Its nose twitched, processing scents and threats with that lightning-fast Earth predator brain. The stalkers noticed it immediately, several of them rising to their feet, growls building in their throats like thunder. And the honey badger? It started scratching the floor. Just scratching, claws against metal, making this rhythmic scraping sound that echoed through the bay. Not aggressive, not defensive, just scratching, like it was looking for something buried under the deck plating. What is it doing? Thressa asked. I have absolutely no idea. I pulled up every Earth creature database we had, scrolling through behavioral patterns. This doesn't match any recorded honey badger responses to threat scenarios. They usually attack. Immediately. Or, I stop scrolling. Or what? Or they're setting a trap. The stalkers clearly thought the same thing. I watched their body language shift, muscles tensing, preparing to either fight or flee. And that's when I realized something that made my blood run cold. Metaphorically speaking, since my species doesn't actually have blood, they were scared. 16 apex predators, creatures that had never known fear in their entire evolutionary history, were legitimately frightened of a 3-foot-long Earth mammal that was currently just scratching the floor. Mira, oblivious to the tension thickening the air like soup, turned around. "Pepper!" she exclaimed with pure joy. "You got out again. Daddy's going to be so mad." She looked at the circle of stalkers, then back at the honey badger. "Did you come to meet my new friends?" The honey badger, Pepper apparently, stopped scratching. It looked at Mira, then at the stalkers, then back at Mira. And I absolutely swear on every star in the sky, it looked annoyed, like the child was ruining its tactical assessment. "Mira's parents are en route," Theresa reported, checking her pad again. "Estimated arrival, 12 minutes. Vorkath, what do we do? Should we activate the emergency barriers?" I considered it. Really, truly considered it. The barriers would separate everyone into individual containment cells, protect the child, neutralize the threats, standard procedure. But something stopped me. Call it curiosity. Call it scientific interest. Call it the morbid fascination of watching the universe break its own rules in real time. "Wait," I said. "Just wait." One of the stalkers, braver or dumber than its companions, took a step toward Pepper. Just one step. Testing, probing. The honey badger stopped moving entirely. Became perfectly still in that way that predators do right before they explode into violence. The stalker took another step. Pepper's lips pulled back, revealing teeth that seemed far too large for its body. And it made a sound. This hissing, growling, spitting combination that translated roughly to, "I will end your entire genetic line and dance on the ashes of your ancestors." The stalker froze. Actually froze like someone had hit a pause button on reality. "Fascinating," I whispered, recording everything. The stalker's threat assessment system is completely overwhelmed. It doesn't know how to process something that small being that aggressive. "That's not small," Theresa corrected. "That's concentrated rage in a fur coat." Mira walked between them, completely unconcerned. She picked up Pepper, who immediately relaxed in her arms, and sat down cross-legged again. "You guys need to be nice to each other," she said, addressing the stalkers like they were misbehaving students. "Pepper gets grumpy sometimes, but he's really sweet if you're gentle." The child was now sitting in the middle of 16 Kravith stalkers, holding a honey badger, lecturing them about manners. I made a note to update approximately 7,000 files in the xenobiological database. Pepper settled into Mira's lap, those beady eyes still fixed on the stalkers with an expression that clearly communicated ongoing threats. The stalkers, for their part, seemed to have reached some sort of collective decision. They all sat down again, maintaining their circle, watching the child and her terrifying pet with what I could only describe as wary respect. "They're not leaving," Theresa observed. "Why aren't they leaving? They've assessed the situation. They should either attack or retreat. This middle ground doesn't exist in their behavior patterns." "Maybe," I said slowly, an idea forming that was absolutely ridiculous, and yet somehow made perfect sense. "They're curious." "Stalkers don't get curious. They get hungry." "Then explain what we're seeing." She couldn't. Neither could I. We just watched as Mira started talking to her captive audience, telling them about her day, her favorite foods, her friend back on Earth who had a pet fish. The stalkers listened, heads tilting occasionally, as if trying to understand this small, fragile creature that showed them no fear. And Pepper? Pepper kept those eyes locked on every single predator, daring them to try something. Anything. The scratching had stopped, but the message was clear. Touch the child, and find out what real terror looks like. My console beeped. Mira's parents, 2 minutes out. I should have felt relieved. Should have started preparing the extraction procedures, writing my incident report, probably filing for early retirement because this job was clearly going to give me stress-related organ failure. Instead, I leaned forward, watching the screen more intently than I'd watched anything in my entire career. Because something was about to happen. I could feel it in the way the stalker's scales rippled, in the way Pepper's ears twitched, in the way Mira suddenly went quiet, like even she sensed the shift in the bay's atmosphere. One of the stalkers, the largest one, moved, not toward the child, toward the wall, where shadows were gathering in ways that shadows shouldn't gather. "Theresa," I said quietly, "are you seeing this?" "The thermal scans." Her voice shook. "There's something else in there. Something big. The sensors are having trouble getting a clear read. But whatever it is, It's registering as. The wall exploded. Not literally, but close enough. A creature burst through the reinforced plating like it was paper, and suddenly everything made horrible, perfect sense. The stalkers hadn't been hunting Mira. They'd been protecting her. Because what came through that wall was something that made Kravith's stalkers look like house pets. I'm going to end this part here because my translator is overheating from trying to describe what happened next. And honestly, you need to be sitting down for the rest of this story. Trust me. The thing that crashed through the reinforced wall wasn't in any database. Not ours. Not the Galactic Council's. Not even in the restricted military files I definitely wasn't supposed to have access to, but absolutely did because, come on, senior xenobiologist here, we see things. We need to know things. This thing? Nobody knew about this thing. It stood roughly 20 feet tall, which immediately made it a problem. Its body was covered in what looked like interlocking plates of some biometallic compound that shimmered between solid and liquid states. 6 limbs, each ending in appendages that seemed to shift purpose. Claws, then tendrils, then something else entirely. And its head, if you could call it that, was just wrong. Multiple eye clusters that rotated independently, a mouth that split vertically instead of horizontally, and an aura of pure malevolence that made my species' survival instincts scream at me to run to another galaxy. What in the name of every sacred void is that? Thressa had abandoned all professional composure. Can't say I blamed her. Scanning now. My fingers flew across the console, pulling every sensor reading I could grab. Genetic markers are contradictory. It's showing traces of 17 different species, but that's impossible. Natural hybridization doesn't work that way. This is artificial. Engineered. Someone built this thing. Why would anyone build that? Why does anyone build weapons? The creature fixed all its rotating eyes on Mira, and I felt my stomach drop into dimensions that probably violated several laws of physics. This was it. This was how we'd be remembered. The station where a human child died because we were too busy being amazed by impossible predator behavior to actually save her. But here's where things got interesting. Well, more interesting, which I didn't think was possible. But the universe apparently had a whole new barrel of impossible to throw at me. The 16 Kravith stalkers moved as one, forming a tighter circle around Mira, not fleeing, not attacking, defending. Their scales locked together, creating what looked like a living shield wall. That low rumble I'd heard earlier, it became a full-throated roar that shook the observation bay's remaining walls. A challenge, a declaration. You want the tiny human? Their body language screamed. You go through us first. Mira, to her credit or perhaps her absolute lack of any functioning danger awareness, looked up at the bioweapon with the same expression she'd given the stalkers. Mild interest. Maybe a touch of concern, but not for herself. Are you okay? She asked the massive creature. You look hurt. Did you get stuck in the wall? That happened to me once in the maintenance tunnels. Daddy had to pull me out. He wasn't happy. I blinked all 3 of my eyes in sequence. Did she just express sympathy for the thing trying to kill her? Humans, Thressa muttered. They're all insane. Every single one. The bioweapon tilted its head, clearly as confused as we were. Its eye clusters focused, refocused, like it was trying to process something that didn't compute with its programming. Which, fair enough, I was having the same problem. Then Pepper moved. The honey badger had been sitting in Mira's lap, seemingly unconcerned with the apocalyptic nightmare that had just entered the room. But now it stood up, put itself between the child and the bioweapon, and made a sound that my translator couldn't even begin to process. It just displayed a series of symbols that roughly meant, error, aggression levels exceed measurable parameters. And then Pepper charged. 3 feet of earth mammal, weighing maybe 25 pounds, launched itself at a 20-foot bioengineered killing machine without a single moment of hesitation. No, 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 I chanted, unable to look away. This was going to be messy. This was going to be traumatic. This was going to require so much therapy and paperwork. Pepper hit the bioweapon's front leg and did something I'd only seen in theoretical combat simulations. It climbed, not scrambled, not clawed its way up, climbed with the efficiency of a seasoned assault specialist, using those wicked claws to find purchase in the biometallic plating. The creature tried to shake it off, but Pepper held on, moving up, always up. It's going for the sensory clusters, Thressa whispered, horror and awe mixing in her voice. It identified the weak point in 3 seconds. The bioweapon shrieked, a sound that made my audio receptors try to voluntarily shut down. One of its shifting limbs transformed into something spear-like and stabbed at Pepper, who dodged with reflexes that shouldn't exist in nature. The honey badger reached the creature's head and bit down on one of the eye clusters. What happened next violated at least 4 laws of biology. The bioweapon's biometallic plating started to corrode, not from damage, from Pepper's saliva. The honey badger's defensive adaptations, designed to handle bee venom and snake bites on Earth, were apparently potent enough to break down advanced alien bioengineering. Its integumentary system is failing, I reported, because apparently my brain had decided professional detachment was the way to handle witnessing the impossible. The honey badger's biochemistry is acting as a catalyst for molecular breakdown. In standard, please. Pepper's spit is melting it. The creature stumbled, one leg giving out. The stalkers saw their opening and attacked as a coordinated unit. Not chaotically, not with the feeding frenzy I'd seen in nature documentaries. This was tactical, surgical. They went for joints, for the gaps in plating, for every structural weakness that evolution or engineering had left behind. Meanwhile, Mira had retrieved her stuffed bear and was hugging it, watching the battle with wide eyes. "Be careful, Pepper," she called out. "Don't get hurt." The honey badger, clinging to the bioweapon's disintegrating head, made a noise that probably translated into, "I will hurt whatever I want, tiny human. Your concern is noted but unnecessary." I pulled up communication channels. "Station security. This is Vorkath in Observation Base 7. We have a code nightmare situation. Multiple hostile entities, structural damage, and..." I paused. "And one human child who is somehow orchestrating the weirdest alliance I've ever witnessed." "Repeat that last part," came the confused response. "You heard me. The bioweapon was losing. Badly. Whatever engineer had designed it clearly hadn't accounted for Earth fauna with zero self-preservation instincts and a fundamental hatred of being told what to do, or for Kravith stalkers deciding that protecting something was more important than eating it." With a final, gurgling screech, the creature collapsed. Its biometallic plating had corroded to the point of structural failure. Pepper wrote it down, jumped clear at the last second, and trotted back to Mira like nothing had happened. The stalkers backed away from the corpse, scales resetting to their normal pattern, and reformed their protective circle. Silence fell over the observation bay. Well, relative silence. There was the hiss of escaping atmosphere from the massive hole in the wall, the creak of stressed metal, and the sound of my own cardiovascular system trying to restart. Mira picked up Pepper, who allowed this with the air of a warrior accepting tribute. "Good boy," she said, scratching behind his ears. "You protected everyone." She looked at the stalkers. "You guys too. Thank you for being so brave." One of the stalkers, the big one that had moved first, lowered its massive head, not in submission, in acknowledgement, like it was accepting the child's gratitude. "I'm hallucinating," Thressa announced. "This is a stress-induced hallucination. I'm actually in medical bay right now, sedated, and none of this is real. If you're hallucinating, then I am too, which means we're sharing a psychotic break. Works for me." The bay doors exploded open, and Mira's parents burst in, followed by a security team armed with enough firepower to level a small moon. Her father, a tall human with graying hair and wild eyes, took in the scene. His daughter, sitting calmly. His research specimen, covered in alien biofluid. 16 Kravith stalkers. 1 dead bioweapon. The massive hole in the wall. "Mira Elizabeth Torres," he said, his voice carrying that specific tone human parents use when they're too relieved to be angry but too angry to show relief. "What did we talk about regarding wandering off?" "To not do it?" Mira offered helpfully. "To not do it, yes." He ran his hands through his hair, looking at me through the observation window. "How bad is it?" I activated the communication system. "Define bad." "Because from where I'm standing, your daughter just accidentally befriended the apex predators of the outer fringe and weaponized your research animal against an unknown bioengineered threat. So, pretty normal Sunday." Her mother, A shorter human with kind eyes that currently held the look of someone reconsidering every life choice, knelt down next to Mira. "Sweetie, are you hurt? Did anything touch you?" "I'm fine, Mama. The big kitties kept me safe, and Pepper was super brave." She held up the honey badger, who gave the adults a look that clearly said, "Your security is terrible, and we need to have a serious discussion about perimeter protocols." The lead stalker made a low sound, something between a purr and a growl. The other 15 echoed it, creating this resonance that I felt in my bones. Then, moving as one again, they turned and filed out through the hole they'd originally entered from. Not fleeing, not skulking, just leaving, mission accomplished. The last one, the big one, paused at the opening. It looked back at Mira, at Pepper, at the assembled humans with their weapons. Its glowing eyes held something I never thought I'd see in a Kravith stalker: respect. Then it was gone, vanishing into the station's maintenance tunnels like smoke. "Someone want to explain?" the security chief said, his weapon still raised. "What in the 17 hells just happened?" "I'm writing a report," I replied. "It's going to be very long, very detailed, and absolutely nobody is going to believe a word of it." Theresa was already backing away from her console. "I'm requesting a transfer, immediately, to the quietest, most boring research station in the entire galaxy. Preferably one with no humans, no Earth animals, and definitely no homicidal bioweapons. Get in line." Mira's father scooped her up, honey badger and all, holding her close. "We're going back to quarters. We're having a very long talk about safety protocols. And Pepper is going back in his containment pod." Pepper gave him a look that suggested that last part was negotiable. As they filed out, surrounded by very confused security personnel, I slumped back in my chair. My console was lit up like a festival. Display. Damage reports. Incident forms. Requests for clarification from at least 9 different departments. "You know what the worst part is?" Theresa said from her station. "What?" "We're going to have to tell the Galactic Council that a 7-year-old human and a honey badger just redefined everything we thought we knew about interspecies threat dynamics." I groaned. "They'll think we're lying." "Oh, we have footage. They'll think we faked it." "Probably." I started drafting my report, trying to figure out how to explain the unexplainable in professional terminology. How do you document the moment when the universe's most dangerous predators decided that protecting one small human was more important than their instincts? How do you quantify the combat effectiveness of an Earth mammal that weighs less than my lunch? Halfway through the first paragraph, an alert popped up on my screen. Motion sensors in Section 12. The maintenance tunnels. I pulled up the feed and felt my organs try that relocation trick again. The stalkers were still there, all 16 of them. But they weren't hunting, they weren't feeding. They were just sitting in a rough circle. Exactly like they'd done around Mira, as if waiting for something. "Theresa, if you're about to show me more nightmare fuel, I don't want to see it. You need to see this." She looked. Her mandibles clicked in confusion. "What are they doing?" "I don't know. But I'm going to find out." I pulled up the station's security grid, tracking every movement in those tunnels. Because I have a horrible feeling that this isn't over. "What do you mean?" "That bioweapon didn't just randomly appear. Someone sent it. Someone with access to genetic engineering that shouldn't exist. And if they sent one, I didn't need to finish the sentence." Theresa understood. We both stared at the screen, watching the stalkers maintain their vigil in the darkness. Somewhere in the station, Mira was probably telling her parents about her new friends, about the big kitties who came to visit, about how Pepper saved everyone, her voice bright and cheerful and completely unaware that she'd just become something unprecedented in galactic history, a human child protected by monsters, and if whoever sent that bioweapon tried again, well, they'd have to get through 16 Kravith stalkers and one very angry honey badger first. Good luck with that. I saved my report, filed the appropriate alerts, and made a personal note to start carrying stronger sedatives. Because something told me this was just the beginning. The universe had revealed a new variable, something that all our data and databases and careful observations had missed. Humans didn't just survive hostile environments. They made friends with them. And sometimes, just sometimes, those friendships were more terrifying than any weapon we could design. My console beeped again. A message from Mira's father, requesting permission to keep Pepper out of containment for security purposes. Attached was a formal proposal to establish a research initiative studying Earth fauna defense applications in deep space environments. I read it twice, then a third time. Then I approved it. Because honestly, after today, why not? We'd already thrown out every rule in the book. Might as well write a new one, a better one that included chapters on befriending the galaxy's nightmares. Because if today proved anything, it's that humans didn't play by our rules. They wrote their own. And somehow, impossibly, wonderfully, terrifyingly, they made it work. I looked at the screen one more time. The stalkers were still there, still waiting, protecting the tunnels that led to the human quarters. Standing guard. And somewhere in those quarters, a 7-year-old girl was probably already asleep, dreaming of big kitties and brave honey badgers, completely unaware that she'd just changed everything we thought we knew about the galaxy. Tomorrow, I'd file my reports. I'd attend the emergency meetings. I'd answer questions from people who wouldn't believe a word I said. But tonight I was going to pour myself the strongest drink my species biology could handle and try to process the fact that I'd just watched a child, a honey badger, and 16 apex predators team up to defeat a bioweapon. Because if that wasn't proof that the universe has a sense of humor, I don't know what is. And somewhere in the maintenance tunnels, I'd swear I heard scratching. Just quiet, rhythmic scratching against metal. Pepper, making his rounds, just in case.